Mario Kart 8's almost here, but that didn't stop Nintendo from inviting us to their San Francisco office for one last go at the game before it's released. And we saw quite a bit with our almost 1 hour of hands-on time with the game, including new characters like Baby Rosalina and Pink Gold Peach, confirmation they can race as your Mii, new items like the Super Horn and Crazy 8, a round of battle mode, and the chance to race on 8 new tracks, including 5 that have never been shown before. And we even learned new details about how Mario Kart TV and online tournaments will work. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, so let's get to it. So first up, Battle Mode is back, baby. And I don't mean the lame version from recent Mario Kart games. I'm talking the classic last man standing style that made the balloon battles of Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64 so darn fun. So in case you don't know what I'm talking about, in this mode, each player has 3 balloons, which represents your health. And your goal is to pop everyone else's before they pop yours by launching all kind of items their way. So if all your balloons get popped first, it's game over. Actually, that's not entirely true, because you now actually come back as a ghost afterward, and one that can still do everything you could before, besides win of course. Which means if you want to get revenge on the person who took you out, you totally can. Yeah, even though you can't win, depriving someone else of their victory can be almost as satisfying. Now, although this does largely mark a return to form for battle mode, there are a couple of key differences. One is that there is a time limit, although you can adjust the duration, but we're not sure if you can turn it off entirely. In fact, there are several options for you to tinker with, such as enabling teams, changing item sets, like bananas, shells, among others, changing the CPU difficulty and what vehicles they use, how many rounds there are, and of course what courses you play on. And it's actually those very courses that might be the biggest change compared to past Mario Kart's battle modes, because all 8 of the courses that we saw available here weren't actually specifically created for battle mode. Instead, they're all based on actual racetracks from the game, though changed up a bit for battle mode. And in the case of the track that we played on, being Moo Moo Meadows, this meant some repositioned hazards and item boxes, with the track itself otherwise appearing identical to before, as far as we could tell. And it seemed to work out fine for that single match. In fact, the entire thing was quite a bit of fun, but I am concerned that if every track is ultimately just a loop, as they are during the races, that this could ultimately end up making every track feel very similar to each other. But that aside, the core battle mode gameplay is the most promising I've seen in a Mario Kart game in years, and I'm eager to try more. Now before I talk about the new tracks you gotta play on, I wanted to touch on 2 brand new items real quick, being the Crazy 8 and the Super Horn. And the Crazy 8 works exactly like the Lucky 7 from Mario Kart 7, instead of giving you 8 items that circle your cart instead of 7. So needless to say, it's a pretty potent item, as it gives you a lot of offensive and defensive options. But watch out, as competitors can sneak up and steal your goods, like stars, simply by running into them. Now the Super Horn is something that's completely new, as it creates a spherical shockwave around your cart, taking out anything in its path, including bananas, shells, other racers, and even blue shells. That's right, you can even destroy blue shells using it. But the catch is that this item shows up extremely rarely. In fact, between 4 players and 8 races, we saw it appear exactly twice. Okay, moving on, I was able to race through 8 new tracks in both the Star Cup and the Retro Leaf Cup, all as part of a Grand Prix with 3 other players. Yep, for the first time ever, you and 3 of your friends can do a full-on 12-player Grand Prix using split screen. So the Star Cup consists of Sunshine Airport, Dolphin Shoals, Electrodome, and Mount Wario. And as we've come to expect at this point, they all make inventive use of Mario Kart 8's mechanics to offer an experience that feels very distinct from the other tracks. Take Dolphin Shoals for example, a primarily underwater track where you race alongside dolphins. At one point, you'll enter an underwater cavern filled with water-expelling pipes, and 1 giant eel. Well, they're not just for show, as you can actually ride the current coming from those pipes to land on top of the eel. And if you can manage to hang on, you'll snag yourself not only an alternate route, but some extra coins too. And then there's Mount Wario, a single lap track in which you race down an entire mountainside, where you'll encounter a forest, an ice cave, and you'll even launch off a ski jump. There is a ridiculous amount of variety in this track alone. And that variety even extends to the new retro tracks from the Leaf Cup that I got to play, which included Wario Stadium DS, Sherbet Land GameCube, Music Park 3DS, and Yoshi Valley N64. And as I've stated before with previous retro tracks I was able to play, most of them have been so heavily updated they're barely recognizable, both visually and gameplay-wise. And that's a very good thing. Take Wario Stadium DS for example. Yeah, it still takes place in a stadium, though a much better looking one, but the core track itself has seen a lot of changes, such as one segment about halfway through where you now drive up an anti-gravity pathway perpendicular to the ground, just before diving into a pool of water. Yeah, those weren't there originally. Then there's Sherbet Land from Double Dash, which is a race that takes place in a frozen lake. Now this one's really interesting, because while the main track is largely identical to before, if you happen to fall into the water, you'll find yourself at what's essentially half of a brand new track that's been layered underneath the existing one, as a race through new underwater caverns, complete with their own anti-gravity section. It really takes what was a relatively unremarkable track and spices it up a lot. And then we have what might be one of my favorites of the bunch, partially because the original was also one of my favorite tracks, Yoshi Valley Nintendo 64. And this one too has seen some pretty massive upgrades, such as the fact that it now actually looks like a valley, with some bulked up mountains and water that runs through it too. Now what made this track so memorable originally was the fact that it had numerous branching paths, which basically made it impossible to see everything the track had to offer in a single run through. And that's still the case this time too, but the developers have taken the opportunity to make those different paths feel even more distinct, such as by adding bridges, tunnels, and even a barrel cannon that will launch you halfway across the map. Really, the sole disappointment here is Music Park 3DS. If only because it plays nearly identically to the Mario Kart 7 version. But that track really does seem to be the exception, as I've consistently been impressed by the imaginative changes on display. Now, outside of the core gameplay, we finally learned some more details about how Mario Kart TV is going to work, and it's a surprisingly robust feature, allowing you to create automated highlight reels according to parameters that you set, such as what players the camera should focus on, what kinds of action to highlight like drifting or big hits, as well as how long you want the video to be, with the options of 30, 45, or 60 seconds, as well as the entire thing. The one cool thing about it is that you don't have to decide to create those videos right away, as the game retains your most recent 12 races, from which you can create a highlight reel at any point. And once you have, you can then publish a video to either Miiverse, or, get this, even your very own YouTube channel by logging into your Google account. Now there is one slight catch for the YouTube option, and that's the fact that you can post a highlight reel of any length, except for the full one, which is a slight disappointment. And that's not the only cool online thing Mario Kart is doing. Besides allowing 1 or 2 players to race online from the same Wii U, it also supports online tournament creation. Essentially, anyone can create a custom tournament that runs for a predetermined amount of time, and the rules are entirely customizable, such as what items appear, the track selection, how many races are involved, whether the whole thing's public or private, and you can even bar entry to only those of a certain skill level. So after you've named your tournament and given it a custom greeting, you're then provided with its ID number, which you can share with whomever you like. And people can even find it by searching too, again assuming you set it to public. So that about covers it for the game itself. But on top of it all, Nintendo has just announced a new Wii U bundle for the US that comes with a deluxe Wii U, Mario Kart 8, a Wii Remote Plus, and a red Wii wheel, all for $329.99. In addition, if you register any copy of Mario Kart 8 through Club Nintendo before July 31st, whether bought as part of a bundle or a standalone copy, you'll be able to download either Pikmin 3, Wind Waker HD, Wii Party U, or New Super Mario Bros. U completely free. So yeah, you're getting 2 games for the price of 1. So that wraps it up for our preview of Mario Kart 8, but we're not anywhere close to being done covering it yet. So make sure to keep an eye on our YouTube channel or website, GameXplain.com, for upcoming discussion, Q&A, and in-depth overview videos of each track coming soon. Thanks for watching, and make sure to keep an eye on GameXplain.com for more on Mario Kart 8 and other things gaming too.